Now the story of a wealthy family who lost everything, and the one son who had no choice but to keep them all together. It's Arrested Development.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name, because there's always money in that banana stand. Am I right? My name is Kylie, and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to The Good Place, Game of Thrones, Broadchurch, Stranger Things, iZombie, The X-Files, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Schitt's Creek, New Girl, The Originals, Supernatural, The Crown, Once Upon a Time, and the Arrowverse on the CW. We've published several episodes in our Looking Back series covering such diverse shows as Sense8, Battle Creek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, Marvel's Agent Carter, and Third Rock from the Sun. And we've looked back to look forward at shows like Will and Grace and Gilmore Girls. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for 13 Reasons Why, Orange is the New Black, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Grace and Frankie, Fuller House, American Horror Story, Doctor Who, A Series of Unfortunate Events, and the Marvel's Defenders panel will talk Season 3 of Daredevil. We'll be launching new panels covering Westworld, Jane the Virgin, The Americans, Riverdale, and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll be launching our mega Star Trek retrospective into space, The Final Frontier, in the near future. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows, and we just went live for the third time from Grand Rapids Comic-Con. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't tier your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, as long as you don't make us feel like Lucille makes Lindsay feel. Sober up already! Today's panel is looking back to look forward at an American sitcom originally broadcast on Fox from 2003 to 2006, until Netflix commissioned revival seasons, the first of which was released in May 2013. If you aren't already aware, from time to time, CPU chooses shows of all types, but usually of some fame or notoriety to reminisce about and to consider whether or not they age gracefully, like the boyishly awkward George Michael, who would later become overtly sexual, or don't hold up as well, like analrapist-turned-actor Tobias Funke with a host-rejected hair graft. As such, this is another chapter of our Looking Back podcast episodes, wherein we review a show that has been gone, either by a natural end or cancellation, for some time. And today, that show is Arrested Development. In fact, today is part 1 of our Look Back to Look Forward miniseries devoted entirely to the family Bluth and all of their known associates. In part 2, our panel will discuss the revival Season 4, and in Part 3, Season 5, when it is fully released by the streaming giant, our unofficial non-sponsor. Arrested Development is an American television sitcom created by Mitchell Hurwitz. The show follows the Bluth family, a formerly wealthy, dysfunctional family. It's presented in a serialized format incorporating handheld camera work, voiceover narration, archival photos, and historical footage. The show also maintains numerous running gags and catchphrases. Ron Howard serves as both an executive producer and the omniscient narrator. The series received critical acclaim, 6 Primetime Emmy Awards, and 1 Golden Globe Award, and attracted a huge cult following. It has been named one of the greatest TV shows by publications including Time, Entertainment Weekly, and IGN. It influenced later single-camera comedy series such as 30 Rock and Community. In fact, Arrested Development has received several rankings in TV Best of lists that CPU follows, including number 3 on Entertainment Weekly's Best Cult TV Shows of 2014, number 18 on Empire Magazine's 50 Greatest TV Shows of All Time in 2008, and number 43 on the same list in 2016, number 16 on The Hollywood Reporter's 100 100 favorite shows. It features on Time Magazine's all-time 100 TV shows and is number 27 on Rolling Stone's 100 greatest TV shows of all time. Despite critical acclaim, Arrested Development received low ratings and viewership on Fox, which canceled the series in 2006. In 2011, though, Netflix agreed to license new episodes and to distribute them exclusively on its video streaming service. These episodes were released in May 2013. A fifth season followed, the first half of which premiered in May 2018. Today, for CPU's Look Back at Arrested Development, we've gathered a ripe and rowdy panel comprised of 3 frequent panelists and 2 brand new voices, as well as your very involved moderator, who are eager to dive into Arrested Development like Buster dives into vats of juice. It should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series and may discuss sensitive plot points, sight gags, jokes, and other bits of comedy best enjoyed on a first watch. So for those of you who have not watched Arrested Development and plan to do so, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like to introduce the panel. The 3 frequent panelists know how this works. The 2 brand new voices might not, but what I'm going to do to let them know and remind the others and remind the listener is to ask you will be asked in fact, to identify yourself by your first name. Tell us how you came to watch Arrested Development, what made you start watching, how did you find out about it, what kept you watching. Tell us if you watched the original run, because that's what we're covering in today's episode, all 3 seasons. And then how would you rate your interest in the show? And your rating goes along the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. Are you ready, panel, for this?
Yes! I'm young.
Perfect. Hello. All right, so this is how it works. How would you rate your interest? And because we're looking back at the original 3 series, you get to tell us how you felt at the beginning and how you felt at the end of the 3rd season. And I'm going to do some things. I promise they will be my best attempt. They may not be good. So how would you rate your interest in Arrested Development? You are simply titillated by the possibilities that this show has to offer. In fact, you've even gone so far as to portray various characters in poorly narrated reenactments because you can just taste those meaty leading man parts in your mouth. Sometimes you blew yourself just to be prepared for a viewing, though you're never nude. In fact, you've undertaken a career change from analrapist to actor in your devotion, which has affected your marriage and relationship to your child, but no matter, even if it means taking a chubby, you'll suck it up, like Tobias Funke. You have a soft spot for this show and everything about it, because after all, there's nothing more important than family. Really though, you might be in love with it, like you might be in love with your cousin. Also, your cousin might not be biologically related to you, or so you tell yourself, like George Michael Bluth. You have an unhealthy love for it, like you have an unhealthy love for your mother. In fact, you're quite a mother boy, though even in your naivete, you can see the flaws of the various characters and family members. You seem to believe that they are no more monstrous than you. Of course, you're a monster! But you ultimately think they mean well, even as you nurse codependence with loose seals, and Lucille twos, like Byron Buster Bluth. You like the show? You yearn for people to approve it like you yearn for your family's approval. You're really most interested in the Job character and his illusions, much more than anyone else, though sometimes his exploits make you want to engage in some ill-advised sexual intercourse as a form of misdirection, or, worse, at the behest of a family member, since he seems to get more in his own way than anything else, despite his $3,400, $5,000, $7,200 suit. Come on! Like George Oscar Job Bluth II. Man, his name is a tongue twister, isn't it? You're more interested in this show than you pretend, particularly the cousin storyline, but you're not so interested in the show that watching it interferes with your secret life as a movie executive, unless watching it will finally get your neglectful parents to notice you. Marry me! Like maybe Funke. Do you watch it due to a misguided sense of devotion, a need to be in control, and a savior complex? You might be the only level-head around you that understands the show for what it is, but sometimes the family really gets to you, and you wish that you could finally leave the family and all of its inappropriate humor behind and stop watching. even though the family's dysfunction is ultimately something of a comfort to you in the end, and really, you're going to get some hop-ons, like Michael or Nichol Bluth. You only wanted to watch it when you couldn't watch it anymore? Now you're indifferent? Unless watching it will somehow get you some male, not your husband's, attention, like Lindsay or Nellie Bluth Funke. You don't like the show, you don't understand it, and you refuse to answer any questions about it. Wink, I'm doing the wink, you know what I'm talking about. You would rather drink the day away, like Lucille Bluth, or you wouldn't watch it even if you were in prison, and it was your only choice. No touching, like George Oscar Bluth, though you might if you were high, since you couldn't leave a little bud behind, like Oscar George Bluth. What the hell. There's always money in the banana stand. Who would like to start?
I can go first.
Okay.
I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hello. I can remember pretty clearly many years ago, my college roommates told me that I had to watch this show, and they said that you have to promise no matter how you feel about the first episode, you have to at least watch the first 3 because it's a little different, and you have to give it some time. And I remember watching the first episode and not quite knowing what to think, but by the 3rd episode, I thought it was one of the funniest shows I'd ever seen. And then what do I do?
Don't you know this one?
On a scale of analropist to convict,
Those seem similar.
So you found out about it from college. You kept watching because it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're Tobias.
Yeah.
Both times, beginning and end.
Yeah, I was pretty upset it wasn't. By the time I watched it, I think season 3 was airing still. So I had a friend who was like actually trying to get Fox to renew it. He was like writing letters like a crazy person.
They have a website, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Save Our Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't want it to end. So yeah, Tobias, beginning and end.
All right. Welcome back, Nick. Nick appears on many of our panels. In fact, he's our second most involved panelist still. What panels are you on, Nick? Just a few.
Doctor Who, Marvel, DC, Series of Unfortunate Events.
You moderate that one.
American Horror Story,
You co-moderate
X-Files.
that one. Just to name a few.
Futurama.
Yes. Your favorites. Okay.
You must have a really awesome wife to let you be gone all the time and make her all those.
She's alright.
So who's next?
It's me! I'm Sarah!
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah.
I'm Nick's wife.
That's true. Dynamics.
Dynamics. I started dating a guy.
Who?
I don't want to say his name
Okay.
in case he's listening. It's Nick. I think it was it was 2007, and I remember in his house, I walked in and on his fridge there was a sign that said, "The soup of the day is bread," and I was like, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Well, it's the show. It's really funny." And I'm like, "Okay, it doesn't sound funny because that's not a soup." But we watched a couple random episodes with he was still in college, so these college roommates. We watched a couple episodes, and I was like, "This is really funny." And then, so this was one of the shows he said, when we were first dating, I'd said, "I want you to watch this show," and we'd watch it together. And this was when he said, "I want you to watch this." So we bought them all on DVD, because that's what you did in 2007. And we watched them, and I was a Tobias from the start, and I'm still willing to take a chubby, like, Tobias.
Good to know.
That's the description.
I understand.
These are all almost, a lot of them are very sexual. Yeah.
Have you watched the show?
Oh, wait, was I supposed to do that?
Watch the show.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, you can wing it.
Oh, no.
That's good acting.
Can I go?
You can go. But let's welcome back, Sarah.
Thanks. Good to be here. I'm on many panels as well.
Like what?
American Horror Story, Doctor Who, X-Files. I'm on Stranger Things now.
It's true.
I did New Girl, Ally McBeal.
Yay!
Woo! The entire Ally McBeal panel is here.
As is most of the Schitt's Creek panel.
Yes, Schitt's Creek. I'm sure there's others that I'm just not thinking of.
That's okay. That's a good
But that's
sampling.
a good sampling
Yeah.
of my nerdiness.
Welcome back, Sarah.
It's good to be here.
All right.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
I can't remember the year that I started watching the show because it was when it started on TV. So when did it start on TV?
2003.
I started watching in 2003. I liked it from the start, so I would be a Tobias from the start. But throughout the 3 seasons, there were things that happened that made me like it a little bit less So by the end of season 3, I ended up being a mix of Maybe and Michael.
Whoa, that's quite a
Yeah.
That's quite a slip.
Anya. Yeah. So
which you'll talk about when we proceed. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Amy, welcome back.
Thank you.
She was on and is on
Ally McBeal.
Schitt's Creek.
Yep. And now this one.
That's true.
Is that all of them?
Yeah.
She likes the comedies with the quirks.
I heard the sarcasm.
Yeah. I can't only have
other hobbies, you know.
Yeah.
Like
I read books.
I forget what that's like.
Do things.
What is that? I don't know what you're talking about. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you.
Good start.
That was not remotely intentional, but every sinus cavity in my body is... Yeah.
What's your name?
My name's Christian.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, everyone. I started flipping through the channels as I was watching something else, and it was just one of those times where I started watching the other thing more, because I just thought Arrested Development was super smart, and I have no idea which episode it was. I'm pretty sure it was probably season 1 or 2. It's pretty early on, and I didn't really... That was kind of the beginning of my not really watching TV as it aired period, as we've kind of all, in the Netflix cult, shifted to full-time now, I think. But I didn't really watch it until kind of it started coming out on DVDs, when I just watched it all the way through. But yeah, I've been Tobias from day one, and we'll talk about maybe my shifts on that stance in future podcasts. But for 1 through 3, for seasons 1 through 3, yes, the show is fire sale.
Fair enough. Welcome, Christian. This is Christian's very first panel with Couch Potatoes Unite.
I'm not nervous at all.
You'll be fine. Welcome.
Alright, hey everybody, my name is Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
This is my first time on the show.
It's true.
First time on a podcast ever, so hopefully at the end you're not all thinking I've made a huge mistake
Oh.
putting Matt on the show. I was actually a late bloomer with this show. My wife and I, when we started dating in 2011, found out very quickly that we have very similar tastes in sitcoms and comedy-based shows. So just in talking about ones that we've liked in the future, or not in the future, but in the past, she said, you've got to watch this show called Arrested Development. It was a very smart show. It was really critically acclaimed, but it ended way earlier than it should have. It's got a lot of smart comedy in it where you really have to be paying attention to really pick up on everything, and that's my jam. So 2011 was when we binged all of it, and we're eagerly awaiting the first part of season 5. And so I was a Tobias at the very beginning when we first watched it. I think rewatching it to get ready for this, seasons 1 through 3 still hold up, except for season 3 in some ways. So I'm a Tobias at the beginning, but I kind of sloped down to a George Michael toward the end, kind of middle of the ground because of season 3, which we'll get into. But
okay. Good foreshadowing. Welcome, Matt. Welcome to the show, as it were. And of course, my name is Kylie. I will be participating as well as moderating today. I started watching Arrested Development. I actually had some friends. Some of us in this room do a little thing called the theater, and we were doing a show at the time, and I had a friend who was dating somebody who was also doing the show, and he could not stop talking about Arrested Development. I mean, he would be on the headset talking about Arrested Development. And I was like, dude, we're in the middle of a show.
Abuse.
I know.
Guilty myself, just saying.
But I think it must have been during season 3, or he knew it was going to be canceled, because this is what was provoking his ire. So, at the time. So I thought, well, maybe this is a show I should watch, because he was very glowing about it, and he was like, oh my gosh, it's so smart, everybody should watch the show. So at some point, Netflix acquired Arrested Development, of course, and I watched it. I don't know how much later, but it was after the show was off, so I'm also a late bloomer. I started watching it and pretty much binged it straight through within 3 or 4 days. It did take a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's really, really funny. Mm-hmm. And so I would be probably a Tobias for the first 3 seasons from beginning to end. Now, of course, that scale will slide later on. We'll talk about that. But I do love this show tremendously. It's probably in my top 10 of all time. Welcome to the panel! Woohoo! So this is a mini-series. We are going to do a 3-part mini-series. The first, we're going to do kind of our looking back format with the original 3 seasons, because even though they're on Netflix, they also have been out there for a while. And then we're going to do a second episode to talk about the much maligned and controversial season 4. And then we'll do a third episode on season 5 when the whole thing finally gets released to Netflix. So what we're going to do first is really just to talk about the show in general. What you like, what you hated, that kind of thing. You can talk about seasons that were your favorite or not favorite, episodes that were your favorite, not favorite, characters. I can't wait to talk about my favorite characters, but I'm not going to start. You are. Who's going to start?
I think it's interesting that we were all almost a character that wasn't supposed to be a cast member. It was supposed to be in the first episode.
I did not know that.
Really?
They just liked David Cross a lot, even though he had a fight with Fox to get to have a mustache, because Fox said mustaches aren't funny right now.
Oh, Fox, and all their wisdom. That'll be a recurring theme, I think.
Him and Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, they were not.
They were supposed to be bit parts.
Oh.
And gone, one and gone, but they kept him around.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't cut Tobias, because honestly, he is still to this day my favorite character from the entire show. I mean, one of the things that I really appreciate about the show is the running gags, and I think maybe that's part of the reason why it wasn't so popular with fans, because it wasn't really the type of show you could just jump into on a random.
Right.
Yeah, you can't just hop on. But I mean, I think Tobias had some of the best running gags. I mean, I think it was season 2 with the Blue Man, where just every episode there was a blue handprint somewhere in that model home, or the Never Nude popping up. At one point, he found it was when they were doing when Joe was doing his spring break magic trick, and they were trying to make a competing. I'm forgetting what's the equivalent of Girls Gone Wild.
Girls with low self-esteem.
Yeah, girls with low self-esteem. And then they're Lindsay and he are trying to do a counter show to that, and then they find out that the host of the other one is also a Never Nude.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just keep popping that up.
And then at the end, the third season, they're like, yeah, the pipes are they're just dumping under the house. It's all blue down here. Right? I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They didn't.
And to this day, his Mrs. Featherbottom bit is my favorite part of any season of any episode of this show. Tobias is hands down my favorite character.
He does look great in a blouse.
Yeah.
Pirate or otherwise, yeah.
One of the recurring bits that I really, really liked was everybody's version of a chicken.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone had their own very distinct version.
Any of you ever actually seen a chicken?
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, you first saw like Job doing it, probably the most common version. Yeah, and none of them looked like an actual chicken. I really like Lindsay's version with the waving thing. I mean, you guys can't see me. Yeah.
They can picture it.
Yeah. But I think, yeah. But that was one of my favorite things was the chicken people.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's only one episode where they all do it together.
Yeah,
not
that's
even
true.
all of them, because Job shows up right when they're done. He's like, "Oh, come on!"
Right. Yeah.
That's what Michael says. Have you ever actually seen a chicken?
Yeah.
It's the free chicken episode where he's gonna switch with George Michael to get George Michael Sr.
Somebody named George.
He's supposed to,
to get
George
out of
Sr.
prison, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then it ends up being Tobias.
Job is also a favorite character of mine, again, just because he is just always seeking that constant need for approval, and it always puts him in really sticky situations. He'll always do anything to gain approval from his father, his mother, or Michael. And I think the funniest kind of dynamic of those three is between Job and George Sr., because he could just care less. I mean, when George Sr. has the guy wearing the camera on his head, the translator.
The surrogate.
Surrogate.
The actor just died.
Oh.
He
So
did?
talented,
Yeah, he did.
Bob
Oh my
Einstein.
God. Bob Einstein.
Brother of Albert Brooks, whose actual name is Albert Einstein.
Oh, man, that's
Formerly
really sad.
Super
Change.
Dave. He was formerly Super Dave.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to bring it
Sorry.
down.
Oh, it's
but-
okay.
Moment of awkward silence.
But just the way Job looks in the camera, do you want to build Tiny Town, Dad? And he's just seeking that approval. It's just a really funny dynamic.
That just reminded me of the time when he was talking to Buster, the dad, George. I'm just going to call him the dad because there's too many Georges in here. Why didn't you let us play sports? Because you were terrible. You were just a turd out there. You're just a turd. The best. I really enjoyed Maybe. I think that she was so often the voice of reason, which is amusing because she's not reasonable
utterly
at all.
incorrect.
But I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you don't really have a straight man, so they sometimes would take turns with different people filling that role. But I thought that she was kind of the voice of reason to the audience a little bit, like, who are these people? They're crazy. And I really liked her being a studio executive. And
She was the outside observer. Because Michael was most of the time the straight man, but he was in the center of the storm.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the storm causer.
I loved how she was always trying to get with Steve Holt.
Steve Holt!
And then in the end, he really is
Several
her cousin.
arms went up on that line, just so, in case anyone doubted that.
But I loved how they brought that back around because George Michael was always trying to get with her, even though they were cousins. And then in the end, they're not really cousins, but Steve Holt is her cousin, who she's been making out with all along. So,
But is Steve Holt really her cousin?
yes.
Yeah.
No, you're right. No.
It's hard to keep track of.
No, Steve and George Michael would be cousins.
Yes.
But Lindsay was adopted. Although, I'm going to just say, from the adoption community, if you're adopted and raised in that family, they're cousins.
Okay, I doubt that she was adopted. I mean, she and Michael were
Lindsay?
twins.
No, they
No.
weren't.
Nope.
That's
She
revealed
was
in
Nellie.
the third season.
Yeah,
Melly Michael.
I think that's a lie.
You don't believe it?
I don't
Sit
believe
You
it.
refuse to
Right,
acknowledge
Fox,
it. You
that
won't
goes so
answer
well.
any
Oh,
there's a
questions like
scandal.
you
Yeah, I
say.
think that's just a lie. It's unbelievable. I didn't believe it. I thought that was a dumb
It did
thing.
bother me. That did bother me. And then
Yeah.
she tried to get with him. I'm like, you were
That
still
was kind of-
raised with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Like
one of the
siblings.
few moments that was, like,
Disturbing.
forced in a way that... Because a lot of things they force, but they're still funny.
Yeah.
That's the show is about forcing things that
Yeah.
are funny somehow in a lot of ways.
that
But yeah,
didn't-
that is one little
That
moment
didn't
from 1
feel,
through 3 that...
It
yeah.
didn't feel right.
No.
I did
That's not supposed
I
to.
refuse.
But
I refuse to believe
if
it.
you were comfortable with that.
That went too
So,
far in your incest meter.
No, I mean that would have been fine, but I didn't
just
believe
clarifying.
I didn't believe that they weren't twins. But I did have two questions.
They're no Lannisters, but...
Whatever, but no, I mean that would have been fine. I mean, do your twin. I don't care. Whatever. But I did have two questions. Okay.
She's using
Where-
the Game of Thrones measurement scale.
Yeah.
You mean
so,
musical
I
chairs.
mean, if your twin is
Stop
hot,
it.
then
Someday you will be forced to
No.
watch it.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Okay, two questions. Okay, so two questions. So there's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah.
So that was said in the very first episode. But then later on, and I think it was in the first 3 seasons, George, the dad, reveals that every year we burn down the banana stand and rebuild it. Then how could there be money in the banana
They
stand?
don't burn
They
it
actually-
down. People throw it in the water.
That was some holiday tradition.
They did
Yeah.
burn it down once, which is when
There was
George
money
comes to baby shakes. There's always money in the banana stand.
No touching.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that. But I
The
thought
community
they said that
throws it
they-
in the water every
Yeah.
year.
Oh, I thought
They do some rebuilding to it.
Oh, okay. I thought they burned it down.
No,
Money
they
can
only
get
burn
wet.
it down the once.
So
Money
that
can get
clears
wet,
up
it's
that.
okay.
Okay,
It's illegal
so
tender.
the second thing is, and this should have
Amy is
been.
sorting out some
Which we
issues
may
here.
clarify.
Yeah, so I mean
We're here for you.
that didn't make sense to me. Okay, so the second thing should have been just like a one-liner joke, and this actor was probably related to a screenwriter and never should have been in the show. Anyan. And it was
God.
only funny because it meant hello. And he never should have been in more than one episode. They should have killed him off.
He's a
from,
running
like,
gag
He should
as
have
a
been
char-
glad
of
to
a
have
character.
punchline
But
by the
yeah.
end of the
I know, but
series.
he should have eaten fiberglass.
Oh
my God.
yes.
Any particular
Or
reason for that
Justin Lee.
specific, very specific?
I really liked Anyang because I like the dynamic between him and Buster. And
I do
Buster's
too.
jealousy, like, oh, how
Yeah.
come he gets a juice box?
Right.
How come he
Yeah.
gets to play soccer?
Because
I
Buster's
love
no
that he's
longer the
Lucille's
youngest.
purse.
Like, one of
He
my
has the big pockets.
Just one of my all-time favorite little minutia running gag moments in the whole series. I can't remember which season it's in, so forgive me if this is jumping ahead, but, well, it must be jumping ahead, but when Lucille is wearing a prison number that is 07734, so upside down on a calculator, it's hello. That is one of my
God.
all-time
Good Easter
favorite.
egg.
Oh my
Nice.
We'll save
gosh.
that for season
That is,
4.
sorry.
I do agree, though. I feel like Anyang was a little forced, especially in the finale, when I just feel like he
When
like
he's been living in
disappeared
the
for a
walls.
while, and then all of a sudden he came
Right,
back,
they had
and
to
they
figure out a
forced
way
him
to wrap
into
it
it.
up.
Right.
Yeah.
The
That
fact
was-
that he was the one who turned in Lucille because he was, gathering evidence the whole time. I felt like
But-
that was a little forced.
No,
But
they
it's
showed
because
it.
he was the grandson of the granddad
Well, the
who
banana
had the
stand.
original banana
The idea
stand.
for the
Yeah.
original
And there's a
stand.
random
Right.
episode in between where we haven't seen him for a while, and
Yeah.
And he's in the walls.
Yeah.
He's
in
in
the
Wallace.
walls.
He's, yeah.
Yeah,
They
and
covered-
they
they
only
covered-
went away to
only
school
a
for
lot of
while.
things in season 3 seem forced because they lost their number of episodes. Got
I
cut
forgot
back,
it was,
so
I
they-
forgot it was
they
half a
did-
season until I went back to
They did
sort
do a
of...
good job of wrapping everything up at the end. I just didn't like
Overall, I
it.
really... Yeah.
See,
really
I have true confessions. Season 3 is my favorite.
What?
Yeah.
Because season 3 is, by that time, their episode order had been cut in half, like you just mentioned. They knew they were pretty
On the
much
chopping block.
on the
The
chopping
good old
block.
Fox chopping block.
Yeah, so they threw
Which they-
everything at the wall.
Yeah.
It was balls to the wall, comedy. All the meta stuff came out in full force.
I mean, one of their housing orders was the exact same number of episodes being cut. Like,
Yeah.
they were doing these things that the current audience could never.
I never
Yeah.
realized that.
There was even one episode, I think maybe it was like 4 or 3 from the end, where they were referencing and working in different networks that they wanted to pick them up. Like
It's
there was
the
an
Save Our
HBO
Blues.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a
Home
HBO
by
That is my
reference.
favorite episode because they were like, we're just going to shill for it in this whole
Yeah.
episode, which I thought was brilliant because who's going to do anything? They were already canceled.
I mean, this is kind of a global statement. I have 2 global statements. One, I don't know if there's any show that is just more densely populated with Easter eggs. That's one of the reasons that I can rewatch this show annually, pretty much, and still enjoy it. And 2 is just there aren't a whole lot of shows that break the fourth wall better.
It does have the most rewatchability because some of the punchlines happen before the punchline.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things is all the hand references
Thank you.
Buster
Yes.
makes,
Oh my
Yeah.
which aren't jokes until he loses his hand, and then you watch it again,
Whoever
and
thought I
he
could
says,
miss a hand?
"Yeah, there's
Wait,
so
what?
they do so much with
They foreshadowed Buster's
Buster
loss of
has the
hand.
hand chair that disappears, and then he finds it at Lupe's
And he
house.
loves
I've never
playing with crane
But it was
games, claw games.
the
and
claw
stuff.
games.
Yeah.
There's
I get
Where he
it.
picks up
There's
a
a-
seal with the claw game.
So here's another true
Sorry.
who
confession.
bites off the seal's hand. The seal bites his hand
You
off.
guys. This is hard.
Well, you
We
have
don't
to
mess
just
around.
watch it
We
a
don't mess around.
bunch.
Yeah, there's a lot of obsessive watching going on.
But talking about the Easter eggs, I mean, you really do have to watch it at least twice all the way through to really, I think, start to appreciate how they sprinkled everything in. My favorite episode of any season is the first episode because when you retroactively look back at it, that's when they planted all the seeds of these great jokes that went all the way through, and they did just such a great job of setting up all the individual personalities. But really, even just rewatching everything to get ready for this, I picked up on new stuff that I didn't see when I watched it the first, second, third time.
Yeah.
A lot of shows still aren't as good as they were with that,
No.
and they were doing it at a time when DVDs were popular, but you didn't rewatch shows like that. Their syndication was really popular, but you never knew what order stuff was going to be aired in. And
Well,
I still
this didn't even have enough episodes to be syndicated.
syndicate,
Right,
the first
yeah.
time.
What was your true confession?
That Buster is my favorite character.
I can see that.
Very understandable.
Mother
Always tell a Milford girl.
I like how he was not seen and not heard.
Yes.
He's very good at that.
Well, really, I mean, all of the characters have great running gags. You're absolutely right, and that's one of the hallmarks of the show. But Buster's running gags are seated pretty early on, and even when he's not in the scene, they're telling jokes about him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And he's
The
just
guy who thought the blue on the map was land.
Yes.
Yeah.
he's just so fun. He's so different than the rest of them, and that, of course, partially that's because you find out later that Uncle Oscar is his biological father. But that's what makes him even funnier because he's really very nice and not at all as
Snarky
or
anything.
entitled as the rest of them.
Yeah.
He's just really, really stunted because he's been mothered all
Yeah.
of his life,
Yeah.
which he's more than
Development
happy
is the
to
most
be.
arrested.
What?
His development is the most arrested.
This is true.
Oh,
It's
speaking
true.
of
There you go.
development,
That's arrested.
yeah, and stuff.
Arrest.
So the Sudden Valley that
gosh.
Michael built.
Sounds delicious.
That's season 4.
I don't want to live there.
Never mind.
Oop.
I've made a huge mistake.
They reference Sudden Valley because Michael
They
talks
do.
about
Yeah.
the plans in the first 3
Okay.
seasons.
But they were going to call it something else because Sudden Valley sounded like a disaster was going to
Anything could happen at any time.
Yes. But then they ended up going with Sudden Valley, but that's for season 4. My other favorite character is Joe.
He's good.
Because of all the things that Matt said.
Yeah.
He's just so... Also, I might have a tiny, secret, illogical crush on Will Arnett. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
Illusions, my girls. But you just think he's one of your favorite characters. One of the things that I think is funniest about just his running gags is using the final countdown in all of his magic shows, and how he just kind of dances and flails around without actually doing any magic. But
I can't hear that song without thinking of this show.
Yeah.
the show, actually, just talking about running gags, they really use a lot of music to kind of put in those auditory clues and callbacks, like anytime they sprinkled in the recording of Job singing with his puppet Franklin,
Yes.
the final countdown.
Oh, Franklin.
Anytime there was a reference that Oscar was Buster's father, there was that really
yeah.
just light doo-doo-doo kind of
It was
music.
a happy smile.
George Michael being
Yeah.
sad and
Yeah.
occasionally walking past a red doghouse with a beagle on top.
Yeah, I've been saying, you're a crook, Captain Hook. The last 2 weeks.
Michael thinks he's a lawyer because he played one in the 6th grade.
Maritime
Buster
lawyer.
played Captain
Maritime.
Hook. That was one of the things, because
Oh,
then he
really?
gets a hook.
Yep.
And then they did the montage of the banana stands competing, and they tried to put different songs behind it. And Ron Howard said, "We tried putting all kinds of different songs behind it, and it just wasn't funny."
Right. It wasn't funny before they tried that. That was the whole thing.
We thought it would work with Yellow Submarine, but who could afford it?
Right. No, that's a real another sort of global observation of the show is just like the things they don't spend money on are so often just the funniest things in this whole series for me. Okay, I'll just stop saying global things because nobody reads it.
Christian, you're doing fine.
One thing, this may have been in season 4.
That's
So
just
you know
okay.
how Buster likes juice boxes?
That's
so,
all throughout.
Yeah, but there was one time when he got into Lucille's fridge and he found a big juice box,
Which was wine in a box.
which was wine. But Lucille would never have box wine.
Okay,
She just
I'll give you that one.
wouldn't.
I'll give you that.
She wouldn't. I would.
Right. All of us would.
I
But she
only know it
But
wasn't
then he
Lindsay's
did
leftover.
Rose's turn and danced through the
He
apartment.
did.
And
do
that's
that.
awesome.
And that was magical. Yeah.
I do like when he drinks the buckets of fake blood because he thinks they're juice and they're trying to make it look like Ira.
Job's Bachelor Party
Yeah,
episode.
Joe's
That's a
Bachelor
great
episode
one.
is one of
Yeah.
my favorite ones. It just all comes together. And I like Gilligan's Island references.
Sure.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the gal that plays the stripper in that episode also plays the stripper in The Office. Just gonna put that out there, universe.
Solid as a rock.
No.
The stripper
That's
who's
Mo.
dressed
Yeah, I'm
like
drawing a
Mary
blank
Ann
on
from...
The one in the... I'll
I
look it
can't
up.
think of the
Jubal.
one. Okay.
Dressed
I
like
can't
Mary
picture
Ann
it.
from Gilligan's Island. But she's
Yeah, but
isn't
I
she
remember her
narcoleptic?
face. She was asleep.
She says
That's
not
why.
again.
What's funny is that there's so many jokes that kind of lift off in this show just because, like, all the antics just stem from huge misunderstandings. Like, I noted it was season 1, episode 12, the Hermano episode, where they just don't know that means
Yeah.
brothers. So then Job and Michael get in this huge spat because they're both competing for, someone help me, Marta.
Marta.
Right, but Job says
One of the worst
Marta
recasts.
too.
The
brother.
worst. One of the most annoying recasts.
Yeah, but Job says the name brother in every other language. He's
Right,
like,
yeah,
oh,
That
then,
means brother.
I don't know how I know that.
yeah,
It took 3 years of Spanish.
It took 3 years of Spanish.
yeah. I didn't like how they recast Marta either.
Again,
Yeah.
one has to assume, well, schedules or budgets again, because I'm right. I was about to say a global thing, so I'm just going
You can say global
No,
thing.
we're done here.
I don't know what a global
I
thing
think Christian
but
is
yes,
a
you gotta
resident
tell me.
George Michael. So, let's
I think it's
see.
not the same stripper. I really thought it was.
It's very easy to confuse.
I do love there's so many characters to talk about. Henry Winkler.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Barry Zuckercorn.
Got the worst
Blah, blah,
ding
blah.
attorneys.
Frankly, the whole Happy Days running theme with Ron
Oh,
Howard
yeah.
as the narrator is pretty awesome, including his inference that Marion Ross sexually harassed him.
And hopefully she never watched the show and got mad about it.
I know, right? Poor Marion Ross.
The mom from Happy Days, right?
When did he
Yes.
say that?
That
A
is
lot?
in the 3rd season, I think.
I never
Before
watched
Barry
Happy
makes
Days.
the
Same.
Chachi replacement to blah blah blah.
Blah, blah, blah's blah, blah.
Yes. Blah, blah,
I like
blah,
in the
blah,
first season where he says, Ron Howard says something about Jessie, the PR lady, like, she puts down Happy Days, she calls him an Opie, and he said, and she better watch her back. Just lovely. Lovely.
And since we're talking about meta-referential things, my second favorite episode is the one where Justine Bateman plays the possibly long-lost
Nellie.
sister.
Yeah.
That is so uncomfortable on so many meta ways. It's
Yeah.
really, really brilliant.
It's hilarious.
And how she ends up really helping their business.
She
in the
does.
end.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's ultimately a businesswoman. She's only doing the
blew
prostitution
them
because she makes a
away.
lot of money.
You're not
keep
saying
all
away. You're
away.
not
You keep
saying.
forgetting to say away, but
Okay.
And how her pimp is Franklin.
Which we all should have seen coming, I feel like. That's like,
Yeah.
I love
Pepper Jack. What's his name? Is it Pepper Jack?
That is always sunny.
That's always sunny.
A pimp named Pepper Jack.
We're going to say something?
I don't know. I like how, maybe it's just George Sr., but I feel like a couple times people legitimately get upset with Franklin and not Joe. But
Yeah.
they just
Oh, yeah.
are thinking that Franklin...
George Sr. always
like when they
tries
go to
choke
strangle. Yeah, they
Franklin instead of Joe.
Well,
like, Dad, that's my hand.
it does ride the uncomfortably racial line
does.
for a while.
Yeah, that was one of the episodes I rewatched. Had Franklin and like the lyrics. It's just like, even though they're kind of in the background, you're hearing them uncomfortably.
Yes, because it ain't easy being white.
But I think it's a commentary.
It is common. I understand.
Right. That's why it's okay. Like when Franklin is being arrested.
Right.
Oh, I forgot that. So bad.
Yep, Joe gets by, but Franklin is
And then he washes him and he's all white.
Aw. Which I feel was a Michael Jackson reference, but it's okay. That was before he died.
So it's okay.
Too soon. Too soon.
But it wasn't then. That's key.
That's true.
I also really enjoy the doctor that speaks literally.
Yeah, we lost him.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Not this guy again.
He just got away from us.
He's all right. No, he's gonna be all right-handed.
All right,
He
he's-
still took his left hand. It's just gone.
Is there anything about the show? We've had a lot of praise, and I know Amy didn't like Anyang.
No.
Just saying.
Is there anything that any of the rest of you didn't like?
You mentioned the adopted thing.
Right, and the adopted thing. Anyang
Don't
and
leave
the
out any
adopted
of the things
thing.
Amy didn't
Yeah.
like.
Lindsay is his twin. You don't believe anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Did we mention Anne?
Oh, and
my
her?
Did we? I couldn't remember because it did.
A pronoun
I
has never
don't know
made me
this.
laugh so many times.
Yes.
They had so many twists and takes on that joke. Egg hog.
What's funny is that role was recast too. That was
Yes,
a nondescript
I'd
actress
forgotten
that
that
we
too,
don't
yeah.
know, and then they replaced her with Mae Whitman, who's like recognizable. And
Wait, what?
The
the first time you
we
see
meet her at
Anne,
the
it's a
Bananas
different
Split.
actress.
In season
Oh,
2,
it
it's a
is?
different
I thought they
name.
just had her dye her hair.
No, but it's a different.
It's an easy
girl.
mistake to make. That's the
She
point.
that actress did everything like this. Oh yeah, you're gonna be on
Yeah.
TV. That's awesome. Like she actually did a thing,
Oh.
and then Anne, and then it was recast with Mae Whitman,
Suzanne is the nose on Plain's face.
who has the most stunning, beautiful parents,
Yeah.
or mother at
She
least.
must be fun.
Alan Tudyk and Ione Skye played her parents.
Yeah.
They're actually real people, guys.
Yeah.
I love Alan
But it's season
Tudyk.
4.
He's
So we
hilarious.
don't announce it.
What?
Isn't that season 4?
No, we meet
No,
them.
that's 3.
We meet them in 3.
I'm useless.
With George Michael.
Jeez.
George Michael wants to get re-engaged.
Yeah.
We're gonna play the Charlie Brown music for Christian.
Every time I just make an observation about the show that's accurate but not funny.
You don't have to be funny.
It's hard to figure out where, the seasons end and begin and blend and stuff. I get it confused too.
There's one thing that I would like to get everyone's opinion on, and it comes out at the end of the 3rd season, and that is the fact that, spoiler alert, George Sr. was building houses in Iraq so that the CIA could wiretap them. I kind of felt like there was so much build-up to him, George Sr., being, a criminal mind and trying to do that. I just felt like that was a weird way to kind of wrap up his storyline, that he was actually building those for good. Anybody else feel?
I didn't mind it
I
because he still did horrible illegal business things.
Right.
It's just the treason stuff was no longer. It was the government's incompetence that.
And he
we
was
forgot.
too dumb to know what he was even doing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
the real order.
yeah.
Lucille as the mastermind is,
Yeah.
is
I was
great.
just confused by the whole thing. I was like, wait, why isn't he in prison anymore?
Because he left.
I was
Yeah, he
Just
did
like, why
leave.
was he let to go on house arrest?
yeah. Wait, what?
Because they had balls.
Well, first he
You've got
escaped
balls.
prison, and then he ended up in the attic of the model home.
Yeah, but then for some reason they were saying, okay, you're fine, or something.
What?
No,
he
at the
escaped
end
at the
they
end of
went to
season 3.
Iraq and found the evidence that he was innocent and brought it back.
Yeah.
So then
For the
he
first
got
3
out.
I must
seasons,
not
he was
remember that.
guilty
Yeah, it's okay.
until he was exonerated.
It happened kind of quickly. They went
did.
over.
Yeah,
Short
and I think
season.
there would have been a little bit more of
Okay. I don't
Yeah.
know.
They had to wrap that
development.
up real quickly when Fox
They must
cut
have
their
done
order.
it in like 20 minutes.
It was
It was like
just
an episode.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
the
okay.
Which is
second.
about 20.
It was the second
I
to
don't
last
remember
episode.
that one.
I liked
Buster
how
Joe
when,
and Michael go to Iraq for one episode.
Oh.
I liked when
That one
George
must have been
Senior
banned
lived in
from
the
my
attic
TV.
and he was like wearing Tracy's maternity clothes and spraying her perfume.
And having tea parties with the
parties.
And
dollies.
he's like,
Oh,
yeah.
some of the jokes are so sad. The perfume,
That was
I-
that
Every
was all I
Tracy
had.
joke
that's
is
all of
sad.
it.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
Wait,
Or when they're trying to
can you
pick.
repeat that?
So Tracy
Unless it was
is
another-
Michael's dead wife,
Right, yeah.
Who died from
and
cancer.
he sprayed her
Say
perfume.
the he who.
George Senior.
Okay.
When he was
He's
living in the attic.
spraying the
Oh, okay.
perfume on
And starts
himself.
wearing all
Right.
maternity clothes.
He's like, oh, I finished that bottle. Huh, that's the last of it.
He didn't
Like,
have.
of his dead wife's
Right.
perfume. And there's
Yeah.
when they're trying to pick a charity, and everyone has their weird, very specific, and one of them
It's
is like
ovarian
ovarian
cancer.
cancer. Like, we know who
Oh.
did that one.
There's always a joke made at that expense.
Yeah.
There was the whole episode where, who was the teacher? It was somebody famous.
Heather
Yeah, it's Heather
Graham.
Graham.
Heather Graham.
Miss
Yeah, her
Barely.
dead wife. Yeah.
Flirting over his dead wife. Ha ha ha, I thought you were joking.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Just
she
nervous
really
dead wife
died.
laughter.
like we're all making now.
Oh, jeez.
The
We-
fundraiser episode was a great episode, though. The grafting versus host.
Oh, yeah.
Tobias with his hair
Grafting.
washed.
I
Host.
actually did not like that just because it was so
He
sad
got
and gross.
grosser
His
and
makeup,
that I was like,
yeah.
oh gosh, I don't like to watch this.
I liked his
Pretty rough
hair
one.
though. It looked so good.
Yeah.
I did.
I just love the
thought
video
it was
that
great.
Joe made and everyone at that
He's
at
just
fundraisers reaction. They're like, just take the hair plugs out. What? There's a cure.
There's the reason why Tobias does not rank higher for me is just because sometimes he is a little gross. And I'm just like, I mean,
Regularly.
regularly.
Inherently.
Commits and
innately.
grounds to the most cartoonish stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happens in this
Yeah.
show.
The
Like,
things
if
he
anyone
pulls
else was
off
doing
are
it.
incredible.
David Cross is brilliant. I'm just saying
Yeah.
some of it's a little hard to watch.
Oh yeah, Graf versus Host is bad. Steffi Graf versus Don Mose. That's another. They do another Happy Days reference.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Apparently, I need to be watching Happy Days.
I don't know if they do.
I'll just call you whenever I think I'm missing
They
one.
do Jump the Shark. Henry Winkler
Yes,
gets to jump the
that's
shark,
original. Yes,
Yes.
that I knew.
and he gets to do that in Arrested Development. He jumps over an actual shark.
I don't
Well,
also
actually,
don't
sure.
love, you ask things we don't like. I don't always love Kitty that much.
Oh
I think
yeah.
they bring
Yeah.
Kitty back
Oh,
too
yeah.
much.
A
She's
little.
my
Yeah.
It's just sometimes
Say
she's their
goodbye to
friend and then she
bees.
wants sperm and then she wants to run the company. I'm like,
She's crazy.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You don't
It
sleep
is-
with crazy.
You don't sleep crazy. It's wise.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that actress. I love Judy Greer. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need you back.
Yeah.
A little much.
There's so many characters we haven't talked about yet.
Gene
We never-
Parmesan.
Gene Parmesan. I love
Gene-
Martin.
Ah!
I knew
Gets
it.
me every time.
That's
love
why
Martin
you leave
Mull.
a note.
Yes, Martin Mull, erstwhile Colonel Mustard.
He's a genius.
He is a genius. What other guest stars? Since
We
you're
haven't really
rattled-
talked about Lucille that much, and
Lucille
she's one
too?
of
Or
no.
Lucille
We haven't
Mom?
talked about Mom, and she's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Well, then talk about her, Nick.
Go ahead.
I like when
You
she
have the
quotes
floor.
and drinks.
Okay.
I love when she yells at Lucille too, no matter what house she's in. And Michael's saying, "You know she's not your neighbor when you're here." Right?
But when she remodels and moves the wall.
Yes.
She spawned her own line of horror movies. Gang
Gang-
Gangy. Yep.
I'm thirsty.
Talk about creepy makeup. That makeup when she gets
Oh, yeah.
pulls all the bandages off from that surgery. Whoa.
Who would want to R her?
I would cry, but I can't spare the voice.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
She's good. She commits to
Jessica
She is
Walter's
genius.
awesome.
Who's she married to in real life?
Ron.
Howard.
We Weird.
Somebody famous. I shouldn't have brought it up because I don't know.
She's the voice of the
Rachel's
person.
dad in Friends.
Yeah, Rachel's dad in
The guy who
Friends.
plays Rachel's dad in
Oh,
Friends.
for real?
Yeah, that's her husband.
Ron Liebman?
Yes.
Oh.
That's why they are love interests on...
Archer.
Yes.
Yes! I was gonna hope that's who you're talking about. And then
Get
I did
the
hope that's who you're
heck
talking
out.
about, and then it happened.
We live here.
Well, that's, I did
We
not
have to
know
get-
that. Learn
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah. But she's just so funny, and she just commits to everything.
She's great. She's a good...
That's not a take-home.
Was this your onion? We could do it all night.
poor Lupe.
And then actually, I'm about to say a meta global thing again, but so...
It's George Michael, I'm telling you.
So recently, in current events, in meme culture at least, like, the banana... Everybody was making reference to how much could a banana cost? $10? When one of the many crypt keepers in the current administration was like talking about how he just didn't understand how federal employees were needing to. Why couldn't they just go take out loans? It's just like I said, the meme culture just kind of blew up with 10-year-old Arrested Development references to. Okay, maybe I saw that.
We're going to be putting current events in this show together in our next episode.
Sorry.
That does happen a lot.
It does happen a lot. And then Lucille, too. So the story for this was they really wanted Liza Minnelli, and they weren't sure they were going to get her, but she used to babysit Ron Howard when he was a child.
Of course she
So
did.
he
Really?
asked her.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so she agreed to do it. And what would the show be like without Lucille, too?
Yeah.
I just don't think you think about... Well, I don't think about how amazingly famous Liza Minnelli is when I'm watching it. She's like the most famous.
She's really
She's
famous.
cute,
Yeah.
Has she EGOTted?
I don't
I
know.
don't know about that.
What
Pardon?
does that mean?
Emmy,
Grammy,
Grammy,
Oscar,
Tony.
She
went
might
all
not
over
have an
awards.
Emmy, but she has the other three.
Probably.
And she is like, just obviously
Which
amazing.
makes it funny that like the running gag was with her is that she's always falling down all the time because of her vertigo.
I
She's
know.
like the most famous of all,
She's-
and they're like, we're just gonna have you fall down
Yeah.
all the time and bump into things.
There were colors and points.
Which is sort of a brown blur.
Yeah, they pair her with Buster a lot, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You grab life by its spiky points, and you don't let go no matter what Mom says.
I love him so much. He's funny.
My favorite Buster moment was when they're all hanging out as a family because I don't know if Lucille kicked him out or what, but they're all taking jabs at Lucille.
When they're in the model home, yes.
Monopoly, and he
And
just
he-
explodes. Well, no one's gonna top that.
No, it's good.
That leads to a good joke later on when it's Michael and Buster, and then she walks in because they're in the conference room at the Bluth Company, and Lucille found out that Buster was telling all of them that he thinks she's withholding, and she walks in and says, "Here's a candy bar." "No, I'm withholding it. Look at me getting off." These are my favorite jokes.
Man, I should have taken notes.
Has the joke where he says, "Oh, we're just blowing past nap time." And I say that like every day to my students. Like I'll yawn and be like, "Oh, we're just blowing past nap time." Of course, they don't get it.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
We also, a quote that we use in our daily life and mean it is Pop Pop gets a treat. If one of us is not home and they're on their way.
Well, I guess it's better than Pop Pop Horny, Michael.
we do not.
No touching! Well, let's ask this question now. So this was, of course, canceled. It was very controversial at the time because the show was massively critically acclaimed, even though it didn't have the ratings to sustain it. Did you think, now thinking about the original series finale, this is when, they're all having the party on the boat, and the SEC comes in and Lucille absconds with the Queen Mary, which becomes the setup for season 4. What did you think of the original series finale? Did you feel it was a proper send-off at the time? And then, if not, why not? And what did you think about the cancellation?
We all hated. Well, I hated that it was canceled. I enjoyed it as a season finale. There were at least left some things open so that it gave you hope, even though at that time in television history, shows weren't being brought back to life like they are now. Even shows that have had a long, long run are being brought back as well. So
That's the subject of another podcast. Which we'll probably do. Maybe.
it's not my favorite episode, but I don't hate it or anything.
It does its job.
Yeah, I liked it. I think I mentioned before, it seemed like things got wrapped up pretty well. It looked like Michael and George Michael headed off into the sunny, sunny future.
Yeah, like a literal riding off into the sunset.
Yeah.
It's a good, it's a good enough trope.
Yeah.
They knew what we needed emotionally.
Yeah.
It was a good full circle because they finally were leaving the family that throughout the whole series he was saying, I'm leaving this family, I'm done. Michael, that is, just saying he was done with the family, and then at the end they set it up like he finally got to sail away into that sunset and leave his family behind.
You know, we have hardly talked about Michael.
That's true.
Yeah, well, he's such a...
Wet blanket?
No.
Straight
I mean,
man?
I think you
He
can
is a straight man,
identify
but he
with
does
him
it
a lot.
so well.
Yeah, and because he just is backed into a corner so much. And...
But he's got some lovely snarky one-liners.
He does. He's also
Oh,
the character
yeah.
that needs his family the most, but he's a single dad trying to raise his son, and had been, but it's him trying to keep the family together.
just
Like the
is-
opening says.
Yeah, he's just stuck with a sense of responsibility so much. Like, he really wants to leave, but he thinks that no one else will be able to handle the family, and he feels like he needs to be the one to take care of everything, because if he doesn't, then they'll all just sink. And he can't feel responsible for that.
In
She
some
stuck
ways,
out her tongue right there.
in some ways, he is a deeply selfish person, though. And to Jason Bateman's credit, like, he teeters on that line really well in his performance of just, like, you feel for him because of really obvious reasons, many, many obvious reasons, and then he just kind of is leaning off to the other side of just being, like, that selfishness just kind of oozing out of him. It's just like, in some ways, it just grounds him as being a Bluth.
It's
Oh,
true.
yeah, he
It's how
didn't
you can see he's
get
related to
completely-
these other characters,
Yeah.
really, because if it weren't for that sort of, selfish and the competition with Job and the snark that he shares with his mother and that kind of thing, you would wonder how was he adopted?
Yeah.
See, it would be more believable if he was adopted.
Or
That'd be kind of-
both of them were adopted.
Is that your problem with it?
You want them to be twins? I kind of
Like
like
both
that they were
adopted,
twins.
You want them to
co-adopted.
be
They were
twins.
separated at birth, adopted from
twins,
different
but
parents.
both adopted
Sets
from
of-
different
yeah,
families.
Yeah.
You just want them to be twins. Whatever
Yeah.
happens.
No matter
I
what.
do.
You believed them that way.
Yeah.
Okay. I have nothing to add.
Next question.
So the series finale, you were okay with it as well?
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
That was a good question.
Great
It's a hard question. It's a hard question because
It's
There's
not over.
more.
there's more and we know there is, so
Yeah.
to pretend there isn't it's hard. But at the time when I watched it, there wasn't more, and I was okay with it because I had to be okay with it. I already knew
Yeah.
that was the end.
Okay.
So, and I thought it was nice symmetry, how they had that same party again, and then he was disappointed again because he wasn't made president of the company. Or the U.S.
Or the-
Both.
yeah, who
Neither
knows?
of them. He was
Could have
president.
cleared up a lot of that light treason business.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I liked it.
So how do you feel about the original run now that time has passed? Do you think it holds up? Was it time for it to go, or would you have watched more seasons, or should it have ended sooner?
I think it holds up. I think
Yeah.
an obvious mark of that is there's shows that it was ahead of its time,
It was ahead of its
which
time.
helps it
Yeah.
hold up longer.
I think it totally holds up. I think that Modern Family is a current show that kind of mimics the type of show that Arrested Development was. But I think that if Arrested Development were on the air now with the older writing, not season 4 writing, then it could still be great.
I think the initial comparison that was in the intro, which I cribbed from other sources, was 30 Rock, which I love that show, and I do think 30 Rock does bear a lot of its influence from Arrested Development. And 30 Rock seemed to come right at the perfect time and lasted 6 seasons in spite of itself, because that one wasn't a highly, indubitably watched show either, but they kept it on because it was smart, it was single camera.
Tunnel of love. Indubitably. Sorry.
Someday there'll be a 30 Rock looking back, which I will spearhead, because I love it. But Arrested Development was so ahead of its time, and I think Matt made the point earlier that with all the gags in it, it was really, really hard to jump in. Like, you have to watch it from the beginning in order to see why it gets progressively funnier. And if people don't know that and they tried to watch it at the time, halfway through or whatever, it probably didn't mean as much. But nowadays, I mean, I think people, or today's viewing audiences, are by and large more sophisticated, and I think they would think this show, appreciate this show more than they did at that time. time.
It really lends itself to binging, too, which is
Yeah.
the format that we're all watching a lot of
Even when it
things.
was on DVD.
So I wondered when Amy was talking about watching it live, I wondered how, like, do you feel like you picked up all the little things?
From
like
week to week.
little...
I mean, we tried to.
Yeah, I wonder. I just wonder about that, like how if I would have had the same reaction or not.
That would be confusing because of all the Arrested Developments that don't.
Yeah, they don't
And a
actually
lot of them
pan
don't
out.
actually
Yeah.
happen.
Just stuff
Yeah.
that they cut out of the episode you just watched.
Well, and there literally are a bunch of Easter eggs. I think it would be much harder to remember or see them
Yeah.
if you've got a whole week passing
Right.
or more
Yeah.
between episodes.
I mean,
And you're
I
like,
think if we have to
wait.
point to one thing, it's kind of easy to point to that as its downfall. As a episodic, traditional TV show, it just kind of, you can't expect... Well, I think in some ways you can expect more of audiences than studios often do, i.e. Fox, but like,
Yeah,
you can't
Fox.
really reasonably expect any audience, even an audience as smart as you have to be to watch that show, to keep up with everything that you have to keep up with. That show we're talking about now.
Arrested Development.
Thank you!
And how well would it have
Go
done
team.
if it were like dumped onto so that you could have binged it? Would more people have liked it? I don't know. I remember my brother watched it live, and I remember him telling me, and I was like, Arrested Development, that's a band.
Who sued them?
They did.
Oh.
Who
That
sued
was
them
the
for
whole
these?
joke about the Mother Boy, how they were like, not to be confused with the heavy metal band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a nod to that.
It
but,
was. Arrested Development was not happy. The band. You know them, right?
No.
Oh, they're like a soul folk.
I'm gonna look them up because
Funk.
you will know they're.
There's two big hits, Tennessee and Mr. Wendell.
I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Wendell, yeah.
Did they file?
Don't sue us for singing your song.
Quick, sing in Franklin's voice.
I can't.
Did they file that lawsuit like pretty soon after the show
It was
came out?
pretty
Because it was
quickly,
Makes sense.
Well, they weren't big very long. They had like one big record, and that was it.
Yeah, Tennessee, it says. And
I mean, I can play it for you after the recording if you'd like to hear the Arrested Development. It is actually pretty good music. I like the album. I recommend it. But they sued the show. So that's what happened. So I have to ask a few of these questions because that's part of the looking back process. Arrested Development was created by Mitchell Hurwitz. Now, sadly, this is probably his most notable creation. Most of his other creations that he has made, mostly of sitcom format, have been canceled after 1 or 2 seasons.
He's got the touch.
He's got the touch. Some of them include Everything's Relative, The Ellen Show, which was not Ellen DeGeneres' first sitcom, but her second one, both of which got canceled. Sit Down, Shut Up, Running Wild, Lady Dynamite. Have you watched any of these shows? What did you think of them? How do they compare to Arrested Development? Would you watch any of those shows or anything he creates otherwise?
Sarah and I struggled through Lady
We
Dynamite.
tried. We didn't even finish.
I've heard that from other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I love Maria
Bamford.
who we'll
And a lot
talk
of the
about
cast,
later.
and a lot of the
Debris, pardon.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
but
almost way out of
what
the
was
box.
she doing? It was very strange. She was doing a show for her parents in their house. Or
That was her stand-up special.
Oh, jeez.
Not
I
Lady
couldn't even.
Dynamite.
Lady Dynamite, I could not, you guys. I tried so hard. I was like, is this not funny or am I just confused? It
It's
could be
very different. Like the
Yeah.
format, it breaks the fourth wall a lot too. Sometimes in just her narrating to the camera, but a lot of comedians play themselves as comedians playing characters in the show that they're creating at the same time. So it might be something that if you do power through it, it is worth it. But it was canceled.
I'm sure people with more sophisticated comedy palates than myself adore it. But I really kind of need you to just tell me what's going on, or I'm.
It's like deconstructing comedy.
Yeah.
Petty.
Well, a show, Mitch Hurwitz's first show he worked on, I really enjoyed.
Everything's Relative?
No, the first show he worked on, not created.
Oh.
Golden Girls.
Oh, yeah! That has been requested on the CPU. And of course, that's one of my favorites as well. Yeah, I haven't watched any of these. Clearly,
No.
the silence in the room indicates
Yeah.
that nobody's watched any of these shows.
I watched, I thought I watched The Ellen Show, but you said that wasn't the one.
That wasn't
Probably
the first
watched
one.
The
Ellen.
original-
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
where she
watched those.
I was
eventually
thinking the
comes
same
out
thing.
and then it gets canceled.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Ellen shows
This
after
was the
that.
second
Okay.
try. CBS gave her a second try, but it didn't
I
even
would
get
watch
past
that.
the first
I'm curious
season.
to watch
Okay.
that, but yeah, as far as the rest of the list, nothing was pinging.
Would Mitchell Hurwitz as a creator spur you to watch something else?
If the writing's the same as Arrested Development, then maybe, I don't know.
Right, how much does, as a showrunner, does he have, involvement does he have with the writing?
On Arrested Development, he co-writes a lot of the episodes.
Okay.
I would say about 85% of them, actually.
Does he have anything to do with the writing on
Right.
any of these?
I didn't analyze that part.
That's what I'm getting at, because it's just like, I thought for sure he was real involved with Arrested, and it's like... So.
I don't know the answer, because, I don't know the answer. But you're free to look up. How much research do you think I gotta do? Is Sarah researching?
I am. So he wrote a lot of Lady Dynamite.
Okay.
He wrote. It's hard because it still gives him a creator credit, but it credits him underwriting on here. So I guess I don't know. Running Wild, it says he wrote quite a bit.
I would imagine he's pretty hands-on with his projects, because he's super hands-on with this one. And that could be why they're canceled a lot, because he doesn't know when to let go. I don't know. But let's ask the next question, since that one clearly went well too. How does Arrested Development compare to other sitcoms for you? How would you rank it amongst your personal favorite shows or sitcoms or anything like that, or does it even merit?
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, even...
So say we all.
Yeah, even with the
Things
first
you hate.
three...
Even with Anyang and the twin thing and...
Of the first three, it's one of my very, very favorite shows.
It's probably top 5 for me. I would say.
Yeah. I would agree with that too. I mean, I hold like Seinfeld in very high regards, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I mean, this one is right up there for me.
Non-Larry David things.
Yeah. I have a type.
It's Always Sunny. Do you like It's Always Sunny?
Yes, yeah.
So good. It's up there. Schitt's Creek is one of my favorite new shows on right now, and if you
Amen
listen
to
to that podcast, I compare the two a lot because there's a lot of reason to. That's like the sincere version of this, while still being
I like this show better than Schitt's Creek because I like the conceit more, and I like the fact that we hardly talked about Ron Howard narrating too.
Yeah, I know.
And half of the funniness is his remarking on all the stuff.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
that's true.
He did.
How was Christian doing
Or the
Ron Howard?
cutouts, like footage not found, and Pete Rose like sliding headfirst into
Yeah, all that stuff. He's
the cheesy cutouts. And,
Yeah, exactly. Which Schitt's Creek is very, very funny, but to me it wouldn't be as funny without the influence of this show. So that's kind of where I land on that.
You brought up a really good point right on your intro, just using the term single cam, like that in terms of influence on other shows since, like, again, I think it's presumably just so they could save money as they made it, but you see a lot of that. I mean, everything's kind of moved more into a cinematic look, but just, you call it a sitcom, which is accurate, but we all, especially in our age group, think of sitcoms as the 3-camera thing.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just like, okay, 1 camera, really good writing, we're done, we've got it. Maybe some Ron Howard and some footage not found, but like, yeah, so many of the other comedies we've compared it to are direct descendants of just that single cam motif.
La la la.
No, it also, it's kind of...
Thanks, bro.
It's I mean, it's not, by today's standards, it's not really like, it doesn't fall under that umbrella of sitcom because it doesn't really, I mean, it does spoon feed you some jokes, but not in the way that sitcoms today do. Like, there aren't any real, you have to listen for the moments in Arrested Development, the comedy and the writing, that would normally cue like a laugh track in a sitcom. And I think that's why it's really smart writing, and you do really have to pay attention if you want to pick up on some of the jokes, and that's why I like rewatching it, because I constantly am picking up new jokes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed while watching it, as opposed to like sitcoms like of today, like Mike and Molly or something like that, is you can't be like looking through your email or going through Facebook while you're watching it because you'll miss too much. Like Mike and Molly or whatever, for an example, or whatever. You can be like going through Facebook and you can get the entire storyline of Mike and Molly and you'll be fine. You can't do the same thing with Arrested Development because you will miss like 75% of what just happened because they'll do a look. Or they'll like pan to something with the camera that you'll totally miss. or something. So so with Arrested Development, you have to be like focused on the screen the entire time, or you will miss it.
Yeah. And even if you're focused the whole time, you'll probably still miss a
Yeah,
good 30%
yeah,
of
'cause
it
you'll
without
blink.
knowing it. Yeah.
That is
right.
true.
Something.
That is true. I've rewatched this show an obscene amount of times, and I still don't think I've got everything.
Yeah.
You mentioned an Easter egg today about that number, which is season 4, but the prison number on Lucille's jumper, I had no idea.
Oh my gosh, I died.
Of course, I haven't seen seasons 4 as much as I've seen the first 3 seasons, to be fair. But still, there's just a lot to pick up on.
Yeah.
So the stars of this particular series are all kind of TV royalty in their own right. Some of them have careers going back decades. Some of them not so much, but they've gone on as a result of the show to have some pretty notable projects. Some of them are currently on TV in various projects, and some of them are not. Would watching Arrested Development influence you to follow the cast to other projects? And what, if any, would you watch?
I tried one, but I didn't really pick up Veep and stay with it.
I struggled with Veep,
I
guys.
liked it, didn't love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I haven't
What's that?
watched it.
He's kind of Buster with a sprinkling of Dwight from The Office.
Oh, Veep. Yeah, I like it.
You can say it on the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I like Veep. I really like, who's that girl?
Julia
Louis-Dreyfus
Louis-Dreyfus, as we
I
didn't
like
talk
her.
about.
She's
Maggie
Or Maggie
Lizer.
Or Maggie Lizer,
Yeah.
the prosecuting attorney
Yes.
who was funny
Yes.
blind.
She's really
Justice
funny
is
on
blind.
Veep.
Justice is blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't really. I liked it. I didn't love it. That was the best way to say it. And there were too many other things that I did love. We stopped watching it. I'm kind of not a person that will watch things necessarily because a certain person is in it. I guess I do sometimes, but
And this is a case where, like, there's such a phenomenal ensemble that taking one of the pieces of the puzzle away, he said mixing metaphors, it just doesn't work as well. I think we've already mentioned, like, I'm a huge BoJack fan, huge Archer fan. Scott Pilgrim vs. the Universe is a gem. But, yeah.
See?
Like I
I'm
said,
telling
I
you.
don't...
All the Michael Cera.
Yeah.
I do enjoy David Cross on Kimmy Schmidt. He's on that a little bit.
He is for a few
Not too long.
episodes.
Otherwise, I like you all, but
I think Christian's observation's on point. I love all of these people. See, I told you, you're not doing poorly. Oh my gosh, George Michael. All of these actors, they're all really, really good. But I think I do follow certain cast members if it's a show I really love and I really have fallen in love with the actor as a result of it. But many of these people I knew walking in. They've gone on to do other things. But to me, the magic is in the ensemble on this show. And I just... to pull them apart is almost kind of foreign when you follow them into some other.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be with the Arrested Development cast. So, aside from maybe Jeffrey Tambor, just because he's probably been doing it the longest. Okay.
I'll watch Jason Bateman in pretty much anything.
He's currently in Ozark on Netflix.
I haven't tried that.
oh, what's that about?
I did see...
that.
was
It is
this-
a mystery thriller, and I've not watched it, but it's been requested.
Oh, interesting.
There was like a Jennifer The Switch? with
I
Jennifer
didn't see
Aniston?
it.
I think that's the only, like,
Oh,
Jason Bateman...
right.
Where he switches bodies with.
No, where he switches sperm samples.
I
Oh,
did
then they
watch
end
that.
up... Is
I
that
watched
him?
that.
I don't know if that's him. He's in a body switch movie with Ryan
This
Reynolds.
world needs more of those.
He's in Teen Wolf too.
But if you, I forget what late night show
Speaking
he's
of
on,
things the
but
world needed more of.
he's plugging that body switching show, and he just voices what everyone would think when you mention he's in a movie like that. He's like,
You did say
Like-
it's with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
it's they know what they are doing.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds can't not do self-aware at this point, I think.
That's his career now.
Ryan Reynolds as Ryan Reynolds.
This is what happens when you play Deadpool. Just saying.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about Arrested Development that you haven't already said?
Tony Wonder, the Sitwells, Carl Weathers, J. Walter Weatherman. There's just too
Nick?
much.
I was gonna bring up Tony Wonder earlier, and my brain was telling me he was just season 4 and 5.
No.
Yeah.
He's in season 3.
Yep, because
Just too much to talk about.
oh yeah, when
So
you were talking
talk about
Job,
it!
when you were talking about Job's searching for approval from everyone,
Right.
Like Tony Wonder's like that's pretty much why the character exists, I think.
Which is so funny because Tony Wonder's magic is really not that great. Like when he pulls the piece of bread out of his neck, it's like it's a piece of bread. It's not like a rabbit or something. But Job's like Tony Wonder. I love it.
I like when he gives them the Subway Club sub card. Stamps on it. it's almost full.
It's
It's good for a free beverage.
A great episode is
Buster
when...
says it's only got 4 stamps.
A great episode is that one with the Sword of Destiny where Joe pretends to be the assistant because he's out of the... I forget the name of the magician.
Magic Circle.
The Alliance.
Yeah,
The Alliance.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then he cuts off Buster's fake hand, and Tony just praises Buster, and Job is jealous.
It's not the
'cause-
Magic Circle, but
No, it's
Something
the Alliance of
Alliance.
something magicians. Of
Yeah.
magicians.
The
something.
Magician's Alliance.
We demand to be taken
We demand to be taken
Yeah.
seriously. Just what-
There was an event last summer. The National Brotherhood of Magic came to Grand Rapids, and I worked there. I won't say the
I
name of the
missed
theater,
it.
but the whole time, all I could think of was like, "This is the Magician's
They
Alliance."
demand to be taken
I
seriously.
didn't wanna. They were the nicest people, but I was like,
The Sword of Destiny episode has where we get a break from the serious, the Doctor who's literal, and we get Homer Simpson, who for the first time ever, where he switches Job's fingers just because
That was-
lets Michael theoretically you'll be able to jump higher than any human because they clip his tendons or whatever.
well, they complicate as he complicates as appendicitis. Who is this guy? I want the other doctor back. So some other characters, J. Walter Weatherman. That's why you don't.
That's why you
Always
always
leave
leave
a
a note.
note.
Don't scream.
That's why you
Don't yell
don't
in the car.
teach your kids lessons.
So,
"Hot cops."
Oh my god! When Tobias thinks they're an actual gang and he tries to
When he challenges the real gang.
Through
That's
They all get
dancing.
beat down.
Is that the Gothic Castle?
yes.
Yeah.
Which I have to say carefully.
Retreat.
I like Carl Weathers, the fact that he plays himself, but he totally makes fun of himself being a cheapskate all the time. Those jokes are hilarious.
That's where hot ham water comes from, isn't it? Yeah.
No, Lindsay makes hot ham
Yeah.
I
water.
thought that's just a tie-in to
She's
Lindsay's.
taking
Yeah.
care of
maybe.
Buster at the time, and she's like,
Terribly.
I mean, it's hot water with ham in it. It's hot ham water.
A smack of ham.
So watery, yet with a smack of ham.
Speaking of hot things, the cornballer,
Oh yes,
that's a great gag.
which is only not even legal to be sold in Mexico. With Richard Simmons.
One of my favorite episodes, and I think is Sarah's least favorite, has Martin Short. And
Swoop me, dragon!
You're right. That is my least favorite episode.
Uncle Jack.
Uncle Jack is
That
gross,
hurts
and
my
I don't
heart.
care for his comedy. And he spits up on
When
people,
he's-
and I don't like it.
It's on, it's just something the body does when you shake it. I love it.
You just did a Lucille.
If you will remember, I didn't care for his performance in Kimmy Schmidt either. He does these impressions that gross me out, and he's very talented, but I just like, ugh.
To the nuts! The bridge mix!
Toss me, dragon!
I love it. And that episode, I also love Tobias uses, it's after the auction, and Tobias goes on the spa getaway by himself to test it out, and then he ends up going on it with Michael, and it's a whole little
It's adorable.
chasing Lucille 2, Buster.
Yep.
There, that episode is really funny to me, whether or not you like Martin Short.
I like Ed Begley Jr., so
I do like Ed
it makes
Begley
up for
Jr.
it.
And his dressy eyebrows.
And Christine Taylor, the real life then wife of Ben Stiller, who played Tony Wonder.
We didn't talk about Wife of Job, Bride of Job.
Bride
Amy-
of Job.
Oh, I was
Amy
saying that
Poehler.
earlier when you're talking about
Crindy? I want to say Crindy.
Or Jane Lynch as Cindy Featherbottom, the mole.
No, not
Cindy
Featherbottom.
Light
Light
Balloon.
Balloon.
Light Balloon. Right, Featherbottom was Tobias's Mrs. Doubtfire impression. Who can keep all the names straight?
It's not easy.
We haven't brought up Mr. F.
Oh yeah!
Yeah, that whole-
British eyes only.
I hate when Yanks do British accents. You can always tell.
With Charlize Theron playing a very non-Charlize Theron part.
And her uncle, who's that guy?
Dave Thomas.
He's
Not the Wendy's guy.
No, yeah.
So don't
No.
get
I'm
confused.
really hungry now, though.
half of the
Remember that
Mackenzie
show?
Brothers.
Yeah.
SCTV.
SCTV with Rick Moranis. Aw.
They both really don't act anymore.
No.
Intentionally.
It's true.
They did have a lot of good cameos in that show, whether those actors were big at the time or not. I mean, I forget kind of where Amy Poehler was at in her career
She was on
at that
SNL.
season. Was she on
Yeah.
SNL?
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the rise.
But she was married to Will Arnett.
It was before Parks and Rec, though.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Did we want to say anything more about the British stuff?
It was an interesting run. It was kind of different. It was more of a story arc.
Yeah, it's kind of on the lines of like pushing it is it too forced? Is it the right amount of forced for this show? I think as a whole arc.
I get a little offended by it, if I'm being honest. It might be a sensitive point with me, just given my profession and some of my personal things and family. But looking back, I'm like, well, that's not really.
Yeah,
It doesn't sit well.
It's
you know,
walked.
It doesn't
sit well.
sit
Doesn't
well.
It doesn't Sally.
It's walking a line, and I think
Yeah.
for a lot of the joke they're trying to get across is how stupid Americans are, because
Yes.
the accent makes anyone smarter too. But
Yeah, and there's the
Which is
whole
kinda
Little
true.
America. Where
They're just eating donuts and riding on ponies.
And dressed as cowboys.
I liked an episode where Tobias was supposed to be a mole, and he didn't understand what that meant necessarily, so he gets this costume.
Tiny Town.
Yeah.
The Godzilla spoof when he destroys Tiny Town in the
Right,
mole
and
suit.
George Michael has the rocket hat.
The rocket. Yeah.
George Senior's jetpack. Yeah. That has some offensive stuff too. Job's offensive, not necessarily the
Right,
show.
with the Japanese
you know they're
business
squinters.
There's a lot of borderline race jokes on
There
this.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
It's
different
always-
time than even now. I mean,
but that's when it was.
But they were also playing
You
very waspy,
It's
very
satirical.
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
not.
characters, not the show. It's not
Right.
something the
It's
show and the
pointing out.
writers think. It's
Right.
making fun of people who think that
Yeah.
way.
right. And they're so rich and oblivious and entitled.
Everything with Lupe.
Yeah.
Every single thing with
Yeah.
like her. Yeah.
is it Lupe or Luce? She has both of them.
Luce is the first one.
And then
Lupe's the
Lupe.
second
Okay, I
one.
couldn't remember.
Because isn't Lupe the one that Buster then sleeps?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Buster sleeps with Lupe.
What's the very first one? We only get
Luce.
Luce.
in flashbacks, where we get little baby Buster, where he throws what he thinks is her favorite,
favorite toy.
Oh, I don't remember her name. Luce is the one that Michael nearly kidnaps and releases into the wetlands.
That's a
Well, he thinks it's Luce. It's not really her.
Right.
Just a random
Which-
lady.
It's racist.
Yeah. As we're all having trouble remembering which one's which.
It's just because the names go start with an
Let's just
L.
call ourselves out.
And then she just gets a Roomba.
Robot.
And then Buster
I'm
sleeps with
part
her.
machine. I'm a monster.
I'm a monster.
I do love the holiday party and afternoon delight and
Oh, yeah.
Job's
The holiday
suits.
party one is really good.
The come-ons, how Michael walks up to Job saying "come on" to someone, and then we get the flashback of leading up to that point. It's just good, well written, well edited.
We like
Really
it.
well edited, yeah.
We really do like it. Is there anything else we haven't
There's-
covered, Nick?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. We can't do every episode. We have 2 more in this series. You can harken back.
Who's the guy inside the actor's studio?
Yes!
James Lipton.
The Warden.
Warden Gentles.
Yeah.
Gentle.
New Warden.
New Warden.
I'm not. Go ahead, I'm laughing too hard at it, thinking it. I thought you were going to help me out.
No.
Okay, no.
Job trying to break out of, or trying to escape
No,
out of
just
prison is a great
the
episode.
The
the
kids
line,
in
the
act-
recurring
Oh,
line about
oh.
she gave me
Enjoy the chlamydia, Lucille.
Having kids act that.
He had the clap, and I told him, "You're going to get laughs."
There's so many quotes.
There are a lot of quotes. It's well written.
Yeah, having his nephew's class act that screenplay out is just priceless. I loved it.
Anything else you want to say?
I feel like we can go on forever, but I can't.
I want to make sure your heart is full, Nick.
I think I'm good.
Would you recommend Arrested Development to others? Why or why not?
No.
Yes.
Just
That's
kidding.
real sad. After all that, we haven't talked about this and this and this and this and this, but I don't
would
recommend
and I
it.
have.
Me too.
I will and I have.
Yes.
To make another oddly Ryan Reynolds reference, not to the dumb people. The dumb ones might not get it.
Oh, jeez.
But really. Like, there are people I wouldn't recommend it to, because they just wouldn't appreciate it. But, for the most part,
Snap.
I give it the same disclaimer when I do recommend it too. Like, give it some time. Watch the extended pilot, because
Pay
it's a
attention.
little better.
You have to
Oh,
be
yeah,
able
pay
to laugh at
attention, for sure.
incest
Yeah.
because you're not going to get through it if you can't.
and
Right.
a bunch of
Right.
other things. That,
You keep an open mind for sure.
And if you're the sensitive type that gets offended easy, this is not the show for you because there's just a lot of stuff going on. Is it South Park? No, but it's rising to the level. It could run a race, I think. But but I have recommended it. I actually have been trying to get my mom to watch it because her humor does border on the embarrassingly inappropriate at times unless we're in public and I tell her to be quiet. So
then it's not bordering anymore, it's just there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, you should probably watch this show. I think you'd really like it. Plus Ron Howard is the narrator and you like him, so.
Who doesn't
He's
like
dreamy.
him?
Okay.
The Andy Richter quintuplets.
What?
The Andy Richter quintuplets.
Yes.
Oh my
And
god.
the Muffin Man. Did George Michael? No, he said he didn't kill anyone, but I feel like Lucille didn't. Didn't Michael have a couple teachers that disappeared because
George did
that. George Sr. was the Muffin Man.
Yeah.
No, yes, but I thought Lucille said she made something go away once.
Lucille got rid of Michael's teachers.
Yeah, so there's. Oh yeah.
I like this.
Because they're murderers.
I'm not remembering any.
She also got rid of
You not remember
Young's dad,
Yeah.
leading to the banana stand.
That's right.
Do you not remember the Muffin Man?
For some reason,
George
I don't.
Michael says-
It's like, been a while.
If a teacher is having your kid, I forget why, but he's like, you always send him a poison basket of muffins.
I mean, it sounds
not
like
even
Arrested
subtle.
Development.
In the Save Our Blues episode, I think it is, George Sr. says, well, only the first two were poison muffins. The rest of them were copycats.
It's the one where he makes George Michael go to that sensitive school and he's talking out. He's just reading. He just copied Maybe's essay, but then Michael hears him reading it. And so he blames whichever Richter that is, for turning him against me.
One of the lines.
Does he get a crocodile? I'm sorry.
One of the
crocodile spell.
One of the lines in Maybe's essay that George Michael is reading is "That's why Mom left" or something, and Donnie knows that she died. So it was funny to me.
Like the cancer joke.
Everybody's laughing, turning red-faced with the thoughts of this show. I don't know what
Mostly
could
in
be
a good
better
way.
praise.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all delightedly uncomfortable.
Yes.
There's something we said for that.
That's the state of mind to watch the show in. Delightedly uncomfortable. I don't know what's a better button, but I want to give Nick another chance.
Something will pop up.
There are 2 other episodes.
Like the Poppins.
Oh, jeez.
Nick.
We already talked about
let
her
it go.
shot is only. Shot is only. Mr. F. Well, you know what? There really are 2 more episodes in this miniseries, and we could effusively praise this show for apparently 6 hours more of Nick had his way. But we're not going to do that because we've got other things to talk about when it comes to Arrested Development. So for the time being, what I'd like to do is thank Sarah, Nick, Amy, Christian, and Matt for joining me to talk about the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development. And before we talk any further, and since they've all done this, I now have to do this real fun thing, which goes a little something like this. CPU is produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, and hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. That means give us stars, comments, reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Is there always money in the banana stand? Do you blue yourself when you listen to our podcast? I don't want to know. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We have several more new episodes coming down the pike. We always do. And if you miss old episodes or want to know what we cover, we're everywhere. You Google us, find us, we top the searches. We're so awesome that way. At least, that's what we think. Until the next time, on the next Arrested Development. Arrested Development, both original and revival, are only available on our unofficial non-sponsor, Netflix, who is now producing the new content exclusively. So, don't do bad things to get it. In the meantime, our Arrested Development panel will next reconvene, shortly in fact, to discuss Season 4 of the Netflix revival and Part 2 of this Look Back to Look Forward miniseries. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned. Bye-bye.